Hello everyone and welcome back to a Jump Force character reviews. Today's episode is my personal favorite DLC character in the game, Seto Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh!, who was the first ever character confirmed for this series. We're going to be talking about, as you guys know, how to play as Kaiba, what his special moves are, and of course the support I would recommend if you wanted to pick Kaiba up. He's one of the highest rated DLC characters, at least on the Xbox store. So let's get straight into gameplay. Warning, this is some old gameplay footage I have back in the DLC early access stages. If you had the character pass, you were able to get these characters, and you still are. But this was like days early, and I got to check out the DLC characters by checking out in the training area, as well as Fireball facing me in some matches. So let's talk about Seto Kaiba. Seto Kaiba, as you folks know, is Yugi's rival. He's also kind of like an anti-hero of the show, so he's got that going for him. A lot of Seto's combos are going to revolve around the Blue Eyes White Dragon, and I'm showing you this because he has the widest camera angle of all of the characters in the game to make up for the fact that Blue Eyes, has to exist in this big space of it. So now that we've talked about that, let's get into Seto Kaiba's moves. Seto Kaiba relies on the Blue Eyes White Dragon and varying monsters. His right trigger X being Burst Stream. This causes Blue Eyes to be summoned and fire a beam of white lightning at your opponent, and it can be charged. However, charging it can cause you to not be able to switch into your teammate. His second move, we have the right trigger X. This is Ultimate Burst, where he sends Blue Eyes right into you, causing him to fusion summon all the Blue Eyes in his deck with Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon and hit you with Ultimate Burst. It is actually a great way to counter rush downs because the Blue Eyes will give you that sweet push you're looking for to knock them back a little bit to buy you some time. And last but not least, we have My Turn, the equivalent of the Yugi Draw ability for Seto Kaiba, and the only ability you can give your avatar out of the Kaiba moveset. And just like Draw, it has three effects. First, we have Card Crush Virus, which sends 2 Shadow Orbs at your opponent, which when they hit your opponent, not only do they take damage from health, but they also take damage in their skill meter. And as you are seeing with his second ability, let's go back, we have probably one of my favorite draw abilities in the game in Shadow Spell. Shadow Spell kind of works like Swords of Real Life. However, unlike Swords where you can see it coming, you don't really see Shadow Spell coming, and you can hit your opponent many times with this, as well as send in a range support attack or switch teammates. That's the way I would use Shadow Spell personally. And the last one is a little bit harder to show off, but it's kind of my least favorite. It's Exploding Trap Box, which just drops an unblockable exploding box on your opponent, even though it doesn't work all the time. However, your opponent can avoid that, but if they jump into it, they'll still take damage, so you got that bit of a cushion for you. Now that we've talked about the basic moves in this old training session, let's get into an actual match so we can talk about Seto Kaiba as a character and all that fun stuff. Okay, so what I'm showing you is a match I've never shown people. This was the first ever match I did with Seto Kaiba online. And as you can see, my supports, these aren't the supports I recommend in Ichigo and Ryo. I just had Ichigo and Ryo because in case I sucked as Seto, I wanted to switch to someone I was good with. And as you folks may know from my previous videos or from the previous streams I did with Fireball, Ichigo happens to be my main boy. So Seto Kaiba is a meter burn character, very similar to Yugi. However, I feel like Yugi more excels at the mid-range and combo tier, whereas Seto Kaiba feels more like he's suited for long-range combat. Especially with his special moves and his combos being able to knock you far back, this will give you time to set up those moves that you need. For example, his grab is a great way to set up a My Turn ability that you can launch at your opponent, as well as his combos being very effective for his long-range type style, such as Burst Stream or knocking your opponent back with Ultimate Burst. There's so many in Kaiba's arsenal, and thanks to Blue Eyes being such a big creature, he can hit a little bit wider than most attacks for combos, so you can hit your opponent's support if the chance arises. So as you see here, I'm playing this All Might player, and he and I just kind of felt like a neutral agreement that we both have characters we're better with, in case we suck to these DLC characters, So Seto Kaiba, besides that, is focused mostly on his Blue Eyes style. You want to keep your opponent at bay and disrupt them as much as you can. Yes, I know some people will say, oh, Hisoka can counter some of Kaiba's draw abilities. Actually, he can only counter the Card Crush Virus. He can't counter Shadow Spell, and he can't counter the Exploding Box, due to them both being AoE abilities. However, using Burst Stream, as you can see, you can switch into a proper teammate that you could use. But this guy was just a fairly decent All Might, and I had no idea what I was going to do against him because this was the first game I ever went against an All Might player. But Seto Kaiba is someone I would recommend picking extensively. He's a little more complicated to learn than most of the DLC characters we've gone over before, such as All Might, such as Biscuit. Those characters were a little bit easier than Seto, so you definitely want to invest some time into Seto Kaiba. As for assists I would recommend for Seto Kaiba, honestly, you want anything that can help stun your opponent so you can get a Blue Eyes attack off easier. So for that, I would honestly recommend Yugi. Yugi is fantastic for this specific job because of Dark Magician. I almost said Dark Magician Girl, but Dark Magician is very useful for this tactic since he can stun your opponent so you can get off either Ultimate Burst or regular burst stream. But if you prefer to play in a style where you want someone to really help with your combos to their fullest potential, this guy was part of the meta for a long time. I feel like he can still be used if you're playing Seto Kaiba. You should give Toguro a try. And what Toguro will do is while your Blue Eyes is striking, he'll knock your opponent up so Blue Eyes can still hit him because, you know, Blue Eyes is in the air. And then once Toguro starts to come down, you can go into your right trigger Y, your right trigger X a whole lot easier, or kind of reset your combos for your ultimate attack. Speaking of his ultimate, we didn't even go over any special moves, did we? So, here you folks at home, here is Obelisk the Tormentor.
Oh, so Kaiba summons Blue Eyes first. Holy shit! Holy crap! 100.
So basically what that ultimate does, in case you guys weren't sure what's happening, Kaiba will send Blue Eyes out to stun your opponent, and then he'll summon Obelisk so Obelisk can crush your opponent with, you know, Torment Fist. Anyways, since we are done talking about the ultimates, again, Toguro is fantastic, but the main thing when you want to go for a support, if you don't want to use any of these two once you get Rukia training wheels off, you want a character that can help stun your opponent so you can get a Blue Eyes attack off easier, or so you have more time to get a draw ability off. This way you can constantly keep doing damage as well as have that neat little assist that again stuns your opponent and keeps them off balance. Especially if they have a counter character like Goku or Hisoka, having a Yugi stun them or Toguro stun them at first is very, very useful. Other than that, there weren't really that many flaws with Kaiba that I found. Even going back to him in other streams I've played since he's come out, I can never really think of one issue I really have with Kaiba that is either completely broken or that needs to be fixed desperately. The closest thing we ever had to that was I kind of wanted, back when he came out, for Burst Stream to be a little bit easier to hit when you're doing a downward combo, but they've since fixed that to make it a whole lot easier to hit. But there's nothing really wrong with Seto other than the fact of his learning curve, and because of that, some people may say I'm being biased, but there's literally nothing else wrong with Kaiba unless you count the exploding box, and even then, I'm giving him a 9.5 out of 10. This character is really good, and I consider him the best DLC character because he's balanced. He's not someone that people consider very annoying most of the time compared to someone like Bakugo. And he feels very well used if you put the time and effort into Seto Kaiba. He's definitely a character that if you put time into him, you're going to get rewarded so much easily compared to someone like Bakugo, who you get an easier time with him, but not always is it going to work. Well, that's going to do it for the Seto Kaiba review. Let me know, folks, down below what you thought folks think of Seto Kaiba. And let me know, what other characters do you want me to cover? We only have one DLC character left before Madara and Toshiro come out, but we're not covering either of those two. Come back soon when we cover the edgy boy, Sasuke Uchiha.